Flame just cleanses that away. What you do want is the Drake, and they get it.
Secure. Dragoon has a possible flank angle here too. He has the World Ender. They're going in deep, looking to see who they can get. It is a huge wave of hate filling through the team, but Sketch is untouched and unhit by all the hate. He's got himself a double kill, making a trip, and it's Cincinnati Fear finding the...
Udia doesn't die, Udia can't lose stacks. That's it, there we go.
That's their point, and that's where we let it lie as Deep Learning uses the cleanse, but the arrow comes in big. The bullet time eviscerates town. It is everything thrown at Deep Learning, but the cavalry is there, and he has all the support in the world.
Oh, it's giving that stopwatch. Ariandel stunned up on the front line. Hostile Takeover doing a lot. And now Tomato and Act are going to have to do the work. Meslo barely flashes away, but it's a double kill already. In the side of Azog, and APA does so much damage. Fates go on to 2. It's a quadra kill for Azog, and Actor's the last remaining survivor. Can Psycho do it? The flash bandage toss is not going to land here, but in comes Niles onto the backside. Give it over to him. You know that he wants it. Azog will get the pentakill.
They are capability, certainly nowhere near as high as you would like. Now Sniper, just tanking this turret.
Oh my gosh, he's just going to get the kill, isn't he? Yeah.
Wow. Doesn't even need the jump for that.
This
Incredible.
We were talking about how the matchup is really good for Sniper, and it's just gone from bad to worse. He's going to get the first tower now, trying to outplay a 1v2, get the stun in onto Skoon, and now Reach doesn't have a whole lot of damage. Finally, collapsed upon them, but Big's going to look for the engage. Gorica trapped between the entire members of No Organ. He will get shut down again by Qualifier, who will go down to Shochi, and now the disengage from Robex is coming in too big. It's a double kill already for Shochi. It's a triple kill. It's a quadra kill for Shochi. Welcome back to Proving.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back yet again to some more PGCQ action. I will be your host for the evening most ravishing man of the internet. Joined here by my side yet again by my very, very amazing compatriots. Y'all know me, y'all love me, my main man RMC. What's good with you, baby?
Nothing much, just chilling right now, Rev. I've been told that I'm here to judge on how things are happening. Maybe it's not just all about the players tonight.
It might not be just yet, but of course our guest, of course our prized companion, Gigabrain analyst for many League of Legends teams, Scout, and my very good friend, Mr. Brandon Collimer. Welcome.
That's so nice for you to say after what you asked me to do earlier. So I'm happy to be here, man.
And you know what, as you should be, because we're gonna get down to brass tacks right at the beginning, just to, break down a little bit. So, before we move over to the matches for the day and what I got planned for y'all, I want the people to get to know you a little bit more.
I hate you.
So, what I want to happen is I want to try to bring up some things that, perhaps we've experienced and shared. You have Twitter. We all have Twitters, right? But if we could ask our director to pull up the first tweet of the day to just answer for this one right here. Calmer, please help us to explain. Is this what happens? Is this so?
Okay, so PSA for casters, right? Champions like Irelia are not actually going to go support. The AD carry is not actually going to play Kindred. They are just being nice and shouting out their best friends or someone else. It's not actually going to get picked, I promise. You don't need to spend 30 seconds about it in champ select, guys.
That's her. RMC, what is the ruling? Is it good? Is he fine?
I don't know, man. Sounds kind of sus, honestly. Just saying numbers of people. You know what? We'll see, because we've got Fear, we've got AGT, we've got AOER and CLG.
Yeah,
Fates.
GTC plays some weird stuff, man. Maybe I'm just completely wrong. Maybe there will be a Kindred bot or something like that.
You are indeed
There's a team to play it.
Weird indeed. So speaking of weird, let's move on to the second thing you have to answer for right away, Calmer. What happened? What happened here? What did you do?
Okay, I work in big tech, right? So that means I'm legally only allowed to wear a hoodie and sweats to work every single day, which is why on the desk today I am wearing my very comfy sweatshirt and sweats that you definitely can't see. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I do not live in anything other than sweats in a hoodie or sweats in a sweatshirt at this point. So they weren't wrong. I will clarify that they were not wrong. I look like garbage.
You know what? That's okay because you look good today. RMC, does he look like garbage today?
No, I was gonna say that like that. He's innocent. Look at that gorgeous man on screen right here. Colin looks great. If that's garbage man, I want to be part of that garbage heap, and I want to be like that is a flaming garbage heap. If that's garbage, because he's hot as hell.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
That's amazing. And the final thing you might have to answer for. Let's go ahead and bring that up real quick. Ah.
Bro, we were cute, bro. Okay, so we're in Santa Monica on the pier, right? And I just see this gorgeous bald man, right? And I was just like,
I
bro,
have some hair. It's there.
No, it's not. Okay, but I was like, we got to get a picture. We got to do like the cute little couple photo because you and I are both single as hell. So I was like, let me get a smooch of that bald head real fast. And yeah, we got that photo.
You know what? You are right. And that's one thing that I can agree with is we are both single as hell. RMC, the ruling.
Guilty as all hell. Where was I? I'm not the picture. Come on, bros. You left me out.
Bro, you gotta. We'll include you next time. I'll you know.
Yeah. You know what? That makes it all perfectly fine. So, with the things that we have going on here today, one thing I do want to also try to ask y'all is a little fun activity as well, just to bring it back a bit to the players. Now, there have been many champions played today between the two matches that we currently have, and one thing I want to try to ask you is, out of the unique picks that you could possibly see, especially from series number 2 here as well, which champ has not been played in the top lane? Is it Sejuani, Zach, or Akshan?
RMC, you want to take it first? You want me to go first?
Wait, is this just for game 2 or like all the games?
I'm asking you in terms of the 4 top laners that we currently have, which of these champions have neither of them played?
Sejuani, Zach, or Akshan were our 3 options.
Yes. Sejuani, Zach, or Akshan. Out of the 4 champions that we have, out of the 4 top laners, being Dragoon, Geiger, right? Along with the first matchup of the day, that we also have with Moose as well.
Mr. Moose Hater.
Wait, all 3 have been
At
played.
existence. Okay, cool. So you say all 3 have been played. Column, have all 3 been played?
I feel like this is a big question because Sejuani's the only normal one there, but I can't actually remember when any of those players have picked Sejuani. I know Zach. I know Zach has been played top.
Have they?
Shut up. I know Zach has been played top 1 game, I believe. My brain is telling me Akshan. My gut is telling me Sejuani, and my heart's telling me you're just wrong.
Okay.
I gotta go with Sejuani.
Okay, you know what? You're wrong. You are indeed wrong. Every single one of those champions has been played by our top players. Sejuani.
I hate you, man.
Yeah, because I know Dragoon played Zach for sure, and Akshan was played by Geiger, and then
That's
Moose...
correct. And Draco plays Sejuani.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Draco played too, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I was gonna say I know Draco plays Sejuani. I don't know if he had played it just yet in the tournament. But.
True, yeah.
See, look at that. Look at that. It's RMC for the win yet again. It's phenomenal stuff. So that kind of excitement and more is what you can expect out of today's series. So let's hop right into what we are to expect for day number 4. We do have the matches, of course, in front of you. We'll be going, for Cincinnati Fear against GSL Turmeric, and then CLG Faith going up against AOE Randoms on the other stream. We'll be having EGP going up against Maryville, and Supernova versus DK Crew. Really fun games all around within the group stage. So let me get your quick high-level thoughts here, Qualifier.
I think the most important thing is that for 2 of these series today, it's going to knock out 2 of these teams from potentially making proving grounds. Depending on what happens in the second series today between AOE Randoms and CLG, whatever team loses that has no chance of making top 10. And on the other stream, Supernova and DK Crew, I believe if DK Crew loses, they're definitely out. And I think Supernova is basically out if they lose as well. So really interesting to see for both the second series in the game. I had a tweet about this since we were talking about my tweets earlier about where kind of teams stand in terms of points and stuff like that. And there's about 6 teams left that are vying for like these final 2 spots. And we're going to see 2 of those teams go out today.
That's 100% correct, because RMC on the other end for some of the matches that we have here today, these teams are kind of chilling right now.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have that same pressure where it's do or die for the entire Proving Grounds main tournament here. But when you look at these teams that we're looking at, I mean, if you're an AGT, sure, it might not be about elimination, but these guys have a lot of pride on the line here. And getting out as first seed does make a big difference. We've seen that in a lot of these tournaments so far. So despite not having that same type of pressure, I have no doubt they're still going to come out guns blazing here.
Yeah, because even with the bracket that we see currently right now, things look pretty good here, Columner.
I also think I guess we can talk about the other series as well. EGP and Maryville, I think, is going to be an amazing series. I think both these teams are right on the cusp of being a top 5 team. EGP is trying to redeem themselves after a quarterfinal loss against Team Pending in the last tournament, and Maryville was also struggling around that time, and they've looked a lot better. I think APA said that he had COVID, but it didn't matter because EGP is like a pushover or something like that. I don't remember exactly what that was. Maybe hybrid.
Exactly
something like that. I think my favorite part about these is that for Ginger Turmeric, Fear, EGP, and Maryville, in my mind, that these are the teams that are just under 100 Thieves next in terms of rounding out that top 5 team, probably the top 6 that are going to be going skipping the play-in and going straight into Proving Grounds. So I think these teams really want to establish themselves as like next up, or being able to compete with 100 Thieves next. We saw Ginger Turmeric already was able to when they beat them in the online qualifier. I think a lot of these other teams want to showcase that they are right up there, that they're top 2, maybe even top 1 on the right day. So I think that this matters a lot to these teams specifically.
Yeah, because you can see us right now, it does make a lot of sense, because considering how things are broken down so far with 2 spots on the line, although we may not be able to witness it here currently, I'm sure these teams continue to vie for higher standings and seedings continuing forward, because who doesn't, right off the bat, if you go into PG and you're facing an academy team, maybe you don't want to start off by facing TLA. Might not be the best of times.
If we go back to last year, in between the 4 series, there was only one game that got won, and that was Maryville versus TSM Academy back then. And I think this year specifically, Academy teams look really good. Even the bottom Academy teams that likely are going to be in that play-in still look very good. And I don't think that there's a single amateur team that's like, dude, I would love to completely bet my season on a best of 3 against an Academy team. So,
man, yeah, I can't wait to start off the day by hopping in the lower bracket. I think that's something that we don't want to have happen. But so no matter what, with all 4 matches being played today, things are going to go down to the wire. So let's talk a little bit about our first match of the day, RMC, being Cincinnati Fear versus Ginger Turmeric.
Okay, and these 2 teams have met fairly recently, just in Game 4 of the Open Qualifiers there. These 2 teams went head-to-head. AGT was coming off a win against 100 Thieves Knicks, and then lost to Fear right after. So Fear won in the last time these 2 teams matched up. And when we look at the standings as well in the point system right now, Cincinnati Fear have already locked top 6. They're guaranteed to go through without having to face an academy team. And like Colomer was saying, you don't want to face an academy team. AGT hasn't locked top 6 yet. They're guaranteed to make it into PG. But the question is, who do they face? Academy or amateur teams? And right now, they really, really want to make sure they score as high as possible, get as many points as possible right here.
I love this matchup for a best of 3 because, like we were talking about before we actually went on air, these teams stylistically are so different. The one thing that you could say about Cincinnati Fear is that they struggled early, and they've been very consistent the entire time from the beginning of the season to now. Their improvement has been consistent. Their results have been consistent. You can't look at anyone on that team, in my opinion, and be like, okay, there's a sore thumb. There's a weakness that we can exploit as a team. Whereas if you look on the other side, the one thing that I could use to describe Ginger Turmeric is chaotic. I had them as like one of my top 5 teams when we were doing the committee seating and stuff like that. I thought this team is very, very good, and they are, but it is chaotic. From the way that they draft with Coach Argentum Sky, which the best way to describe that is organized chaos, I think, to stylistically, these players are willing to go aggressive. You have Duo King in the bot side of the map, who has shown that he's willing to be aggressive and ego check basically anyone if the time calls for it. So I really like stylistically how these teams match. I think Ginger Turmeric is going to pull out some very interesting things over the course of the best of 3 where they've had time to prep, and I think Cincinnati Fear is going to stick to their game plan, try to kind of limit the amount of crazy stuff that happens in this game, and we'll see what happens. I think it'll be really interesting.
Based upon the column, sticking with you on this, because you raise an interesting point. Like you mentioned how the drafts can truly be vary across the board for what Ginger Turmeric wants to pick. But based upon that as well, I find the performance as well is something that has shown fluency. I guess I would say in a word. It's been a lot of back and forth. It's been really high highs, really low lows. And would you attribute that to how unpredictable they can be, both just as a team on the Rift, or is there more to it?
I think a lot of it comes down to the players individually. Like I was saying, Duo King is an example of a player that can have some really hit or miss performances. I think Keel, in my opinion, one of the better junglers that we still have left in the
Definitely.
ecosystem at this point in the tournament. I think on a good day, he's top 2 in terms of junglers that we have in amateur. I think sometimes he can get punished for his overaggression really, really hard. Kind of similar to some other junglers like Winston even. Top side, they've been flopping in between their 2 top laners in between Moose and Existence. I think even like roster swap, that goes again to the point of, you know, this isn't very consistent. There is like a lot of things, a lot of moving parts that are happening with this team. I think it does come down to players, and I think that's exactly how they want it. I don't think this team wants to play standard. I don't think they want to make it boring or uninteresting in play to scale. I think this team wants to make things happen, and they want to, you know, ego check basically whoever they play against.
It most definitely do, because on the other end, RMC, Cincinnati Fear have shown anything but fluency. They've shown dominance, consistency, and especially coming off the seeding previously as well, they've shown why they're a team to, you know, be scared of.
Yeah, I mean, when you finish the last tournament second place, the runners up here, there's no need to change anything really until you come up against teams that you really struggle with. And like you said, you look at every single laner for Fear right now, they're all incredibly good. You know, I was looking at the stats for the team in OQs. Dragoon's probably the lowest performing member with the lowest KDA here. And despite the fact that he's the lowest performing, Dragoon is still a monster. He's not weak by any means, right? So when you look at Fear, like you guys were saying, there's no lane you can really attack. And so coming into this particular matchup as well, you know, having won the OQ game, Fear's confident. They just kind of need to play their own game and make sure they don't get dragged into AGT's pace, because I think that's really when things start to get screwy for a lot of teams when they're playing up against Ginger Turmeric, is when you get sucked into their pace. If Fear can just hold on to their tempo, play their style with the confidence that they've shown thus far, they're in a really good position for this one.
One thing I'm personally worried about, kind of to that same point, but on the other end, I think there are certain champions that you have to ban out from Fear in order to kind of give yourself a chance. You don't want to stumble into something where you're like, okay, guys, I'm Ginger Turmeric. I have like a really cool and like interesting draft that I want to do. I want to like run Lux on a bot lane or something like that they've done before. And then you're doing your bans, like, oh wait, we left Dragoon's Darius up and we picked a melee matchup. Okay, well, sorry Moose, you're gonna go 0-4 and like the game is gonna be completely over because we lose all top pressure. I think that this team, although they are very consistent and maybe not as like crazy and zany as Ginger Turmeric, I still think that you have to be very careful in how you approach them and not give some of these players their best champions, because you can be in a world of hurt if you do.
Fair enough, but I feel like it's so hard as well, right? Like, what, there's Darius for Dragoon, and what else is there? Like, I feel like they've expanded the champion pool so much as well. I think for Dragoon, you've got to look out for that GP. I remember his Zac specifically because it was the most random game as well, right? Like, you don't know what Fear has in their back pocket anymore because they've played so standard that we haven't seen their pocket picks, whereas AGT is the opposite end of the spectrum, where they've got so many pocket picks at this point, you can't ban them out even if you wanted to. Like Colmer mentioned Lux, well, there's Senna, there was the Ashe support that we're seeing up from Duo Selena. Sona was his most played champion as well, something that it feels like nobody else is kind of hopping on here. So pick and bans, definitely going to be a very interesting, fun one to watch between these two teams.
There are always a lot of good points, because considering how the both teams have performed, like although like top may not be the necessity in terms of the lane to actually watch the player that we're necessarily going to focus on like today as well, but I think it definitely should be talked about, right? Because considering we have Moose coming in as well, and that become an entire hold wall factor for this first game in general. But our player to watch though, the RMC, is going to be Blaze.
Yeah, Blaze has definitely been popping off massively in the series against AoE randoms there. Sometimes, you know, things got kind of close and Blaze just managed to clutch out a lot of those team fight wins as well against a team which specializes in them. So for Fear here, yes, we said there's carries in every lane, but right now it feels like the biggest spotlight has been on Blaze, and coming into today as well, up against Captain Shrimps, who perhaps hasn't had quite as much flash and pizzazz just yet. I feel like there is an opportunity here for Fear to just play through that mid lane Trickster and Blaze. If you can crack Keel and Captain Shrimps, it might be what you need. Just blow the series open.
Absolute fact, because on the other end, though, Colmer, because Captain Shrimps definitely hasn't been the most highlighted player that we've seen so far, right? He's been kind of slowly and quietly just kind of moving through his own paces. Of course, he has his own standard picks and things that he can bring out if he needs be, but up against Blaze, though, do you think he's able to step up to the challenge and, you know, rise above our main player that we're looking at today?
It wouldn't surprise me if they actually decide to try to create some volatility around this jungle mid 2v2. Sure. Specifically because I think Shrimps is a lot better player than maybe his performances have shown. I think if you go back some time, you think of his time within the C9 organization, where he was performing so well there, and he was arguably like a top 2, top 3 mid laner. I think maybe because the meta has been very stable and on these like these more slow control mid laners. I don't want to say mages, but like Corki, the Victor, stuff like that, that's been meta for a while. It's not really in his wheelhouse, but it wouldn't surprise me if Ginger Turmeric's like, yo, let's whip out some crazy stuff mid.
You know what? Why not? They've done it before. They can do it again. But For now, though, we should take a quick look at our caster predictions to see what they thought about today's matchup, just to get a quick sense of it. And damn, Beatdown is the
BD.
only believer in the shake. That's crazy. I definitely don't blame him, but you know, there's at least a pretty decent spread across the board of having differing opinions, which I gotta say I do respect. I do like the beatdowns on the opposite and the majority for every single opinion. Go off, King. Okay.
It's breaking the mold.
Exactly, as he most often does. But we should move on to our thoughts and predictions. Colomer, let's go ahead and start off with you for our first matchup of the day. Who you got for me, man?
I think that these are two of the best teams that we have in amateur. I think that there's going to be a 2-1 for Fear. I think that Fear is going to maybe drop a game against some volatility, some very crazy stuff that Ginger Turmeric can pull out in between the players and the coaching staff. I think overall, when it comes to consistency over best of 3, Fear's got a 2-1.
All right, RMC, give it to me.
Yeah, fair enough. I think Fear is the easy pick here. They're so consistent, but I like my volatility and I enjoy watching surprise upsets. And I've always loved Akash's drafts, or Argentium's drafts, and I love the way Ginger Turmeric's been playing. I'm also pretty high on how Moose Hater performed against CLG Faith last week as well. So I think it's up to AGT to win this series. I think they've got the tools to do so, but they're the ones who have to really perform up to beat Fear.
All right, and I think I do stand pretty consistent on that same notion as well, where I gotta give it over to Sin, baby. Sin doing their thing.
Okay.
Because as of right now, they're still pretty fantastic. It's 2-1 for me because I do think it's going to be close. But I fear the Fear. But hey, maybe Dragoon got more guac today. Who realistically knows and who might get dropped? We're going to find out when we come back after this short break. We'll see you back in a bit.
Hello, everyone. Okay, Dean, we had a bit of a hiccup. I think everything has been resolved on my end, hopefully, because we have an exciting set of games that we're going to be watching today. 2 best-of-3 series.
We do. Finishing up some action inside of this group is going to be exciting. We get one of our first teams to advance a little bit further on without any forfeits coming through, which is an upsetting part of the tournament that's been added in. We get our first bits of really, really competitive competition at our top bracket, so I think that's pretty nice.
Yeah, and I think, this is part of where things start to get kind of down to the nitty-gritty. Yes, we do have some interesting circumstances due to the fact that we have so many teams that have unfortunately been disbanded or have dropped out of this one so early on into the qualifier here, so that's locked in a lot of these upper places. But when we're talking about AoE Ginger Turmeric and Cincinnati Fear, this is one that I honestly, it's really hard for me to make any predictions for both of today's matches that are on the Academy channel here. AoE has been popping off in other aspects. Cincinnati Fear has absolutely been, just mauling some of these drafts, some of these composition setups. So I don't know about you, but this is definitely a tough one for me to try to have some anticipation about, I guess, on the results of these matches today.
Yeah, walking into today, I think there's a lot of teams, especially as like the second series comes in today, some of the stream or teams on the other stream that have a bunch of anxiety and fear and things because they're trying to compete for top 10, top 6. Everything's been thrown completely into the wayside, into the washing machine as we've had a couple of teams kind of leave. And so their fates are yet to be determined. They have to really compete for some of those spots. But what's nice is that this series, this first one at least, has absolutely, it has very limited ramifications compared to others, right? Because these two teams are at the top of the table. Pretty sure two of them are both of them are locked for top 10 or close to it, if not absolutely locked for top 10 right now, which is the exciting bit about this, is that this is just for placement at this point. They're both competing for top 6. It's a very rare option that we get to see this early of a set of teams that have qualified play for a top 6 spot more than anything else. You also know that Ginger Turmeric have been able to take games off of top teams. They beat 100 Thieves, of course, in the open qualifier, so you know that they're incredibly mean. And Fear were our number 2 team in the previous split. It's really insane to think just what level of competition these two can play at, and how good of games we might potentially run into today.
Yeah, and a team, we're talking about, you're talking about Ginger Turmeric, who are able to take game off 100 Thieves, and then you're talking about the number 2 team from our previous qualifier in Fear, who ended up losing to 100 Thieves. I think it was a 3-0 in favor of 100 Thieves X, and so a pretty solid sweep. But I gotta say that it definitely feels like we're getting to those points with a lot of these teams that have had so much malleability as of late when it comes to roster adjustments, when it comes to kids graduating from school and going to do different things, or deciding that they're not actually looking to do amateur or academy or collegiate or anything like that anymore. So we're kind of minimizing who we have on opportunities for proving grounds. But the cool thing about a situation like this is that we have so many new players, and so all of these teams are kind of in flux, trying to find exactly where their mainstay is here, and that's why we're seeing so many of these kind of fall throughs with some other teams because of promotions, because of players finding their own individual storylines that they are chasing, which is the whole point of Proving Ground. So I don't know about you, Rebel Fox, but that is definitely something that's exciting for me to see. And I do like to watch these teams sort of find their flow and figure out what's working well. These are two teams that I do really think are going to become mainstays here. Obviously, AoE has been around for a while now. Cincinnati Fear has really popped off as soon as they made their entry here pretty early on. So I've got, like I said, I honestly, I can talk about this part of this aspect of Proving Grounds all day long because it's the most exciting part for me by far.
Yeah, considering like where these two teams were just like a split ago, which is like in spring, Cincinnati Fear didn't quite exist yet, but they were built on the bones of another organization, and they've kept a number of those pieces kind of consistent, and they've done well over the course of these qualifiers. They leveled up really heavily in the first one to take that number 2, which was adverse to what I think a lot of us thought. Like a lot of us were a little bit convinced that like, we weren't sure where they were going to land, and the fact that they just kept winning and didn't stop winning the entirety of the tournament wasn't necessarily shocking. It was just that we didn't expect it necessarily, and now I don't think anybody's missing them, right? Like they've been able to level up really heavily. But another point that you're talking about, of course, is like Ginger Turmeric, who last split, or at least in the spring, they were within striking distance. They were 1 win away from really making it into that tournament after having not played in the first one. So they caught everybody off guard just like that, right off the bat. And so these last 2 splits, they've really been coming into their own. They've kind of had a little bit of difference in roster with Moose Hater coming in. But truthfully, this core of players is exceptionally talented. We know how good that they can be. There's a lot of things that we've been able to see from them, both positive and negative, I think, over the course of their existence for the most part. But ultimately, I think we've landed in a position where like Ginger Turmeric have proved themselves to be a very hot commodity, a very good team, and Cincinnati Fear has done exactly the same thing. And so both of them have had a chance to prove that they are some of the best, and they've done so incredibly well.
They really have. And so that kind of, I guess turns into the question for me to you here, Rebel Fox, is where are you keeping eyes today? Because personally, obviously, I know for me in particular, I've had, I cannot stop watching Sketch Dreams and Plucks, or Sketch and Plucks now. So the bottom lane's probably where I'm going to be watching. But, I'm also a big fan of Dragoon here. There's a lot of amazing players across the board. So where are your eyes going to be for the most part for this first matchup?
Yeah, I've got 2 positions that I'm keeping my eyes on really heavily right now. First off, jungle position. I think Trickster and Keel both freeze like this. I think it'd be really great to be able to actually see that happen. On the opposite side, and this is a very rare one because you don't get to see this that often, the support matchup is so good. Duo King,
yes.
Everybody is walking into Duo King like, oh, we're playing range supports. And he's like, ha 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 ha, I am the range support king. And so Plux doesn't necessarily do that. He played Zillion, but he also played Leona, which was the only one that's been played in this fraction of the tournament. And so he's one of the few that I think is willing to try to contest Duo King without a range champion and instead from melee. And I think that could put pressure on Duo King. The opposite of this, of course, is that Duo King just bullies him out of the laning phase with a range champion, and that goes completely awry. But I think, again, a little bit of a chess match at the champion pools between junglers and supports is likely on the cards today for these two teams.
Yeah, I like that you bring up, the Zillion and the Leona pickups, because the Zillion is one that actually ended up working really, really well, if I'm not mistaken, right? And the Leona going into game 2, going against AoE, it was like last week or something like that, ended up not doing well the first game, but then really making a big splash later on. And of course, we're actually going to see a couple picks as well that Ginger Turmeric is trying to take away from Blaze right there, right off the bat. You've got the Azir that worked really well for them in the past. You got that Tristana that worked really well in game number 3 against AoE last week, taken away from Sketch as well. So it does seem like the general consensus for AoE Ginger Turmeric is, all right, shut down this bottom side of the map as much as possible, give as much pressure to Deep Learn and Duo King as possible for our side, and you're set up for a relatively good mid game.
Yeah, both teams getting rid of tools. I think these are very imperative tools, I think, that AGT is getting rid of, because Blaze is a very good Azir player, also Sketch is a very good Tristana, very comfortable champions for them. The flexibility that the champions have on the side of Fear, or what make this, or that AGT have on the champions banned by Fear, are also terrifying, because you've got, Duo King is probably the biggest and most popular Senna player that we've had in the tournament, even after her rise to popularity. He was playing her long before that, and they were playing this champion on just on pick as soon as possible. They grabbed it, and Karthus gets flexed at least into 2, probably into 3 lanes, maybe even into 4 if Duo King particularly feels enticed to play it. But these really flexible champions I like from Fear, and this is a coaching diff, I think, a little bit, because you're trying to remove as much of that possibility of flexibility as possible. Captain Shrimps is a massive pool. Deep Learning's got a good pool. Duo King's got a really good pool, and so they're making sure that that can't be exploited as effectively here today.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it works, and that's too focused on the bottom side of the map in terms of those bans for Fear as well. So, hey, it's not just Ginger Turmeric that is going in with this idea, and the ever-present Udyr, of course, is who we are going to see. We've seen Trickster run this one, we've seen Keel run this one as of late. Udyr's incredible popular, and oh dear, I understand why.
Yeah, I mean, he's... This is a good one. He's incredibly strong. Keel is very good at it. I'm only upset because Keel is a Fiddlesticks player, and since the Karthus is off the board, I was like, maybe we get Fiddlesticks in a long shot. But oh dear. Yeah, look at that. Oh dear, we get the Lilia matchup for Trickster. Which is funny because I feel like this is a matchup we can actually see on opposite sides just as easily as this one, and I wonder if these two champions get traded the entirety of this series, as Trickster feels comfortable taking this one into the Udyr, one of the very rare champions that could try to outrun it and try to outspace it, that type of thing, as well as the Jinx coming in for Sketch as being that massive team fighter that Fear likes to play around.
Yeah, I love this. I've seen actually a lot of this, in particular in Proving Grounds in general. Udyr, you know, the two deers, I guess, on board and facing each other, and they do offer that I don't know, just ability to say, okay, we're not going to ban either one of these, because as long as one of these is up and available, there are more powerful champions that we have to worry about that actually have better cohesion as well with these two in particular. So we're going to see that Numi and Lashin. All right, already a good start to the day here, Dean. We're going to see that Lucian and that Nami locked in over here, and that's another solid aggressive bottom lane that you can make plays on very early in the game, and the Yone is finally actually going to come through for Fear.
Okay, we blind the Yone here, which is really bold from the side of Fear, because you have jungle, you have AD already taken care of. You see the Lucian Nami, and you're like, okay, we have more time. We're not worried about what's going to get banned out. They grab Yone up as potentially a flex between Dragoon and Blaze. I actually would lean more towards Dragoon taking it than Blaze taking it. Not as a knock to Blaze. He's a very good player, don't get me wrong. It just seems like a champion that Dragoon would have picked up over the last couple of weeks, and likely a flex pick for specifically that purpose, which I think is good. Also, we've gotten a bunch of criticism of the Lucian Nami over the last couple of weeks. I've heard plenty of it for my whole Fear. I like to say specifically, I don't think it's as valuable as some teams put pressure on it, but I think the better your Nami player, the better it works. And so Duo King is like an old school Enchanter player. I like to think that he will be able to help make use of this a little better than what we normally see this bot lane be used for.
Yeah, especially given that, like Zeri Yumi that's been really popular, that was left up and available. Zeri has been incredibly strong. I mean, we know Sketch has, Sketch got the pentakill before a couple weeks ago also on that Zeri, so there's a lot of opportunity to still make a ton of moves with her and get a lot of really good side lane pressure, but it looks like that's not the priority here. It's this really early game aggression that you have available, and you're absolutely right here, Rebel Fox. If you don't have a good Nami to set these plays up for the early parts of the game, then it ends up being a lackluster early game, and you really can't have a lackluster early game with a Nami and a Lucian. They need to get a little bit of momentum in the early parts of these, and so that's why I really like the Udyr lock-in for this one. It gives some good opportunities to try to get that early pressure. However, Fear have been able to respond with what is an incredibly scary late game setup already, and now a little bit more frontline and initiation available if they do decide to lock in this Tahm Kench.
I think making sense to try to take some pressure out of the bottom lane. This would be a little more bold, but Flux, I mean, more power to you, bud. Yeah, being able to take this. It's got a ton of damage to work with. It can match the Nami in some of the early game. I am a little fearful, of course, that like the Lucian Nami can snowball this, and it gets even worse and worse as the lane goes on. But this is a little bit more challenging to the beginning parts of the game, which I think is kind of cool. Also, both these players had played Azir and played Swain previously. They were two of the champions that got matched up, and I'm sure had they not been banned away, Blaze probably would have taken it again and made it exclusively those two champions. This probably was predated by the side of Fear, which is why they grabbed up the Yone, and they could say, okay, it's a mage in the mid lane. We could take the Yone into the Swain matchup and feel comfortable with it, unless Dragoon is particularly enticed by the option of a Yone into a Camille matchup, which would be of interest. Nope, he's going to grab Mordekaiser. That makes a lot of sense, I think.
Yeah, I like that better, especially with a lot of the focus is, I mean, you can really tell with both of these teams that it's going to be primarily towards the bottom side of the map, being able to get some of that mid roam in, being able to get some of that mid, also just stability in general for the early parts, while you expect Keel and Trickster to kind of be focusing either towards the bottom or the top sides. That just gives a little bit of safety in a sense. So I actually do like these picks. I also like, AGT going in saying, all right, we're going to snag that Swain away. We're not going to let Blaze find more success with it, because he has found a lot in the past and has been able to shut down some games really quickly with that one champ.
Yeah, to me, it's actually a really buttoned down composition from the side of AGT. We think of them as the team that's got like so many champions. They played Trundle and Poppy top last week. They've got like AP junglers for Keel or something that he's been known for previously. They're like the Senna bot lane team that have been playing it crazy. He played, I think Duo K played Ashe. This is like the most meta that we've seen them, or most standard type of composition I think we've ever seen them run, at least inside of this tournament. The opposite Fear, they went a little bit better, like the Lilia, the Mordekaiser. I think they're both options that have been taken into specifically what AGT run, especially when you're playing at low range, because AGT doesn't have much of that. But ultimately, Fear, I think, put a bunch of faith into Sketch to be able to do a bunch of work inside this game. They put the Lulu down there. They want to win that laning phase, and I think Fear just want to work through Sketch as much as possible. And if they do, again, I think it's difficult to contest with the range, kind of lack of range in that, I should say, that AGT has. I think it's a solid game plan from Fear, and they've got lanes that can work against their opponents if they need more and more time for Sketch to really get online.
And it makes sense, you know, not only are you putting kind of that late game investment, so trying to get a little bit of that early game, you know, momentum prevented from swinging in the direction of, the blue side of the map here. Sketch is definitely one of these players that is absolutely standout in Proving Grounds. Not just that, but when we're talking about veterancy within the bottom lane in general, both Sketch and Plux have been around for years and years, have been very familiar with the amateur scene, with the academy scene, with the collegiate scene, all of it and more. And as we hop into game number 1, we're going to see exactly who is able to take the first in this best of 3. It's AoE Ginger Turmeric on the blue side, Cincinnati Fear on the red side. We didn't get to do predictions this time, Rebel Fox. Do you have, just you know, off the record, I guess, but it is on the record because I can record it and clip it. Do you have any expectations coming into this one, now that we've also seen the draft?
We also submitted predictions is something else that comes
no, we didn't have time. All right, we can blame me. It was, I had some technical issues going on that an amazing production was able to help me figure out right at the last minute, for the most part, at least.
It is what it is. I think it's actually nice because, again, it's a lot more buttoned down a composition from Ginger Turmeric, but I really like it because they've got self-sufficient solo lanes. They want to play in the bottom side. They want to counteract Sketch. The opposite side, I feel like it's not necessarily difficult, but maybe a little harder for Trickster to try to play into bottom lane specifically, especially if Deep Learn and Duo King do well at the beginning of the game. And that combined with, like, they've got themselves some kind of self-sufficient types of champions in, like, the mid and the top lane to be able to work with. I actually think that it's a relatively similar setup between these two teams. I think it's a fantastic way to go. It's just going to be a clash of these bottom lanes. I know we talked a little bit about how, like, Deep Learn, Sketch, Plux, Duo King, they're all on our radar, and for very good reason, I would suspect, inside of a game like this.
Okay, so great. So the answer to the question is basically you don't know either.
I don't know.
It could go either way. So it's basically just reinforcing, right, that this is a very even-keeled matchup, whether we're talking about the teams and the players, or we're talking about the focus of the map, or we're even talking about the compositions, I guess, which is always something that we like to see, especially at the start of, such a cool matchup like this. We're talking about being able to go into qualified seed number 1 for the winner of this. So again, not a ton on the line, but at the same time, it's all about that seeding. It's all about getting a better win-loss ratio, and both of these teams want to go into the next part, or the next phase of Proving Grounds having that title.
Now, where I'm really terrified about, because again, I poked around the answer to the question, but I'll try to give you a little better one now,
all right.
Which is AGT playing a button-down type composition like this, a lot more stock standard. Are they tryharded? I feel like this is not the team we would attribute to trying incredibly hard inside of most games. Like they're always willing to take their own champions and kind of die in style, as I would like to say sometimes. But like this feels like a composition they're like really, really playing to win with. Oh my goodness!
Whee! That's a lot of damage. It's gonna be a heal. It's going to be the exhaust that comes out. So a few summoner spells thrown down from Cincinnati Fear, and some good damage at least sent over in response. But both summoners still up and available. Of course, Deep Learn does have that cleanse available.
Yeah, bottom lane, again, if they can continue to kind of capitalize on that early damage, that was really nice. And again, it was a little bit of play from Duo King. He was punishing the positioning of Plex right there, and both summoners burnt is a useful tool when you've got the Lucian Nami and you want the early game to go about as well as it possibly can. This is how you take advantage of it, especially since Udir's pathing to bottom side. That's really nice. Keel, and especially active jungler. I know our desk talked about how his aggression kind of gets to him sometimes, but I think if he's able to play to this bottom lane effectively, this is a really good place to be. In fact, with the bottom lane backed, Trickster might have been in some fearful territory when it comes to invasion right there, but unfortunately I think he's just taken everything a little too fast. He's a entire health bar. There's no real concern for anything except that Keel can now double crab him, so that's kind of nice.
There it is, and that's exactly what he's going to do. The recognition that mid can't stop him, and we know that Trickster has not quite made the full rotations just yet, so taking advantage, grabs those buffs, grabs those scuttles, now has a bit of opportunity if he wants to try to put some pressure and response towards the top side, because that is, of course, in favor of Dragoon, and Moose Hater is heading back up that direction. But hey, you know what? In the meantime, while we got a little bit of downtime, Sketch, of course, was asked a question here. Is there anyone outside of League who's excited to hear about matches? And my mom, which is very exciting. But as I say exciting, we're going to get a flash away from Duo King. We're going to get the Glitter Lance, because we do end up having a little bit of an appearance in the bottom side from Fear.
Yeah, I think it's helpful for trying to set your feet back into the bottom lane. They already had it back. They went back and got a Cole. Like, they know that they're in for a bit of a storm. And so right here, it's a little bit of breaking from Trickster to make sure that the bottom lane can't be, have any additional pressure put onto it in any significant way, which is kind of nice. It also burns one tool that can be used again for future ganks. We're paying so much attention to the bottom lane as we need to, because again, it feels like both sides are trying to sway that matchup specifically in their favor, and that the winner of that really does take full control of the game, prior to any mistakes. As you can see, Jungler is kind of interacting with another. Keel is right on top of Trickster.
Blaze is right there, though. It's going to be the flash over the wall by Captain Shrimps. Not able to get Trickster because the flash and response comes through. Down is Dragoon, though, who's going to be able to lock down two members. Blaze picks up the first kill. The flash away from Captain Shrimps is not going to result in him surviving this one. Wow. It's another dash forward. Duo King is not going to be able to get out of there. Almost enough damage onto Blaze to make something happen. But it's a triple kill to start the game for Cincinnati Fear and Blaze.
It kind of looked like he was dead to rights there for a minute. We're not quite done because Moose Hater is on top of Dragoon, but Dragoon is going to eat him for lunch, as Moose Hater just has to, jump over the wall with a hook shot. But it looked like Blaze was dead to rights. He had no flash. He had bumped his E out in the middle of a bunch of people. But take a look at what happens here, because I think what happened is it got tunnel vision. This is how it starts: is jungler versus jungler, Keel stealing him up with those with the Phoenix stance, able to grab it, and it's just brawling between these two. And Blaze comes to the rescue, trying to get the knockup between everything else. But watch this: 3 members of this team around this E. I think they tunnel vision so hard on making sure that Blaze comes back. They're like, what? Like, Dragoon walked over a ward. Like, they saw him approach from here. They easily could have just scattered to the wind, maybe given 1-for-1 or tried to go for a 1-for-1. But again, they are so intent on making sure that the Yone was going to get punished that Blaze is actually the one who walks away with 3 kills, which is terrifying that he's up this much gold this early in the game.
It really is, especially given the fact that there was quite a bit of pressure on the opposing side as well, that we could see Captain Shrimps has had a pretty decent CS lead and has been able to shove kind of Blaze underneath that tower a little bit. And Blaze said, hey, you know what? I don't care. And I think that has to do a lot with the quick response time that was there. Cincinnati Fear said, hey, we can respond to this one. And you're right, that kind of back and forth sway from Ginger Turmeric, it was indecisive, really. You saw Dragoon coming down. There was just too many seconds of indecision right there from Ginger Turmeric, because now Trickster going to show his face down here in the bottom side. He's not going to hit the Swirl Seed, but it's a lot of damage onto Deep Learn. There is the sleep, but it's not going to come through because of that cleanse. A lot of damage in response coming out onto Duo King, who's going to end up going down, and it's a kill going over to Sketch, a successful gank from Trickster.
And a huge punishment from Trickster down to the bottom side of the map, again, putting pressure onto the Lucian Nami, which is now, I think, for all intents and purposes, failed. Like, you're down 13 CS, you're down kills. You get nothing. As mid lane, we're getting a little more action. Blaze is likely going to go back to his E before he can actually get the kill. But it's a lot of damage thrown onto Captain Shrimps' kill goes for another invade. And across the map, Cincinnati Fear, a lot of really good control in the early stage of the game, sets them up so nicely. Again, having a Yone this powerful to kick off a game is going to feel great when it comes to contesting against neutral objectives. Blaze in the mid lane.
That's all right. He knows he can withstand this too, being under tower. Keel's not able to take that many shots, and so it's an opportunity worth at least absorbing as much damage as possible. Now Trickster just able to kind of do the thing a deer does best, which is prance around in the jungle willy-nilly and engage when she wants.
Absolutely. The bottom lane also going well for Sketch and Plux is humongous, because again, it sets up this lane to just basically do nothing for the rest of eternity, basically. It's going to set up a situation where the Lucian Nami once again kind of falls to the wayside of not really accomplishing all that much. And this was the fear also for the side of Ginger Turmeric walking into this game, was that they don't have that much range on their composition to be able to contest against Sketch. The best options for that are like, if you can get a Nami wave or Captain Shrimps or Moose Hater jumping into the back line. So right now, I feel like some of the cards are actually thrust up into the new top laner in Moose Hater, who last week had some good games on a couple of the unique type top laners I talked about during the drafting phase. But that's really your best bet to making sure that Sketch is, not able to position aggressively, put damage into the rest of your team when they're fighting against like the Lilia or, the Mordekaiser or anybody else in the front line.
I absolutely agree, and that's even scarier, having the Mordekaiser, right? We haven't talked about being able to use that ultimate, pull somebody into the Shadow Realm, and when you do that with the minimal range that is held by Ginger Turmeric, there's not a lot that can be done. That's going to be the first dragon pickup. Heal manages to get that one. It's the initiation from Blaze, and it's so much damage. Sketch picks that with an easy auto, as well as throwing out the Super Mega Death Rocket, and things are looking more and more dire for Ginger Turmeric.
Trying to push onto what looked like a back timer for Cincinnati Fear leads to the fact that, Ginger Turmeric just get punished on the backside of that one. Cincinnati Fear wanted even more, probably. If they could have caught 2 people with a trap line and with the rest of the engagement, they would have been great, but they're up so much gold. They don't care that they're losing this early dragon, right? 1 dragon at the beginning of the game is not going to make your game on the side of Ginger Turmeric. A 3k gold lead, especially where that gold is put into 2 of your biggest team fighters, is massive for the side of Cincinnati Fear. Not to mention, they can just immediately beeline it to top lane. Look at Dragoon's control of his lane, Blaze's control of his lane. Cincinnati Fear is kind of running a clinic right now.
It's true. It's only 9.5 minutes in, right? Those plates don't drop until 14 minutes, and that means that there's a lot of roam opportunity as well that Cincinnati Fear has. Keel showing his face here at the first Rift Herald, but there's not really a lot that can be done. He does have Captain Shrimps coming in, but Dragoon is navigating his way down. This might be a reset on the buff, and it's not going to be. Blaze, maybe going to use the Blast Cone to get back over? No, actually, it seems like Fear is just maybe going to try to slowly take this one, allow Trickster to try to pick up that smite. It will be finally a reset as more members converge here onto this buff, and finally to jump on to Blaze. He's going to be able to dash away from this one, distract the rest of the team once again with Shelly.
Yes, you've got the Rift Herald might be just on the table here from the side of Ginger Turmeric, but again, you're leaving Lucian alone on the bottom side of the map. This is supposed to be where you're playing to, and they're playing away from it right now in an attempt to deny the neutral objective away from the Cincinnati Fear. But if you pick up a second turret plate or a third turret plate here as Sketch, is it really that valuable? Okay, Deep Learn is at least going to dump the ultimate to try to get into the wave. The trap line's going to keep him ahead of time. They actually might kill him under tower, or at least going to push him back a fair distance. As again, a third turret plate is going to be more than valuable for what the Rift Herald actually just got. They can shove him back, and they're continuing to just pull gold that there's no response to on the side of Ginger Turmeric.
And even with that solo experience for a little while, Sketch is still at level 7. There hasn't been a massive buff there for Deep Learn in that aspect. And now that he had to defend that tower all alone, he's going to have to recall soon because he's incredibly low on mana. And now you have to be really careful if you're Ginger Turmeric here on the bottom side of the map. We can see that there's very little vision that has actually been placed here because Duo King has been spending so much time away from this bottom side.
Okay, this would be an opportunity potentially if Keel were to beeline to bottom lane to look for something. It looks like Sketch and Plux they're dipping out of vision specifically for that purpose, that if Keel ends up on bottom side and he's able to use any sort of summoner spell, any sort of turn on that bottom side to get the Lucian and the Nami a little bit of gold, plus drop the Rift Herald, get some plates on the bottom side, that would be a way to at least salvage some of this mid game, maybe try to start fighting. And I like that Sketch and Plux, they're low on resource, they have all their summoner spells, they just want to play defensively around those things until somebody can assist them. Right now, Trickster is able to path down towards bottom lane. You've got also Yone with the push in the mid lane. So they should be more than comfortable in doing so. As again, if you look at the island on the other side of the map as well, it feels like Dragoon has just been doing anything that he pleases. Moose Hater's keeping up in CCS really, really effectively. But 2 plates already been pulled by the Mordekaiser on his lone, so you can see the damage is also really racking up with the Rylai's already completed.
Yeah, I think that's a big part right now. Moose Hater can't do much. Dragoon has taken 2 or 3 tower shots, doesn't even care. And yeah, there is a ward there placed for Ginger Turmeric. Maybe an opportunity for Keel to make a move here, but Dragoon still does have that ultimate up and available, still has the level up right now on Keel, who's a little bit behind at the moment because they haven't really been involved in as many kills as they would like to have been, but the jump is still going to come through right here. It's damage on the Moose Hater, though, that Dragoon is going to focus on. He's going to jump forward. The Hextech Ultimatum coming out on the backside. The flash away from Moose Hater. It's not enough damage coming from Dragoon. There's enough crowd control maybe to come from Keel. Dragoon realizes that he's got to get the heck out of dodge. He might be able to still do enough damage. The ultimate was utilized. No way! It's a double kill! He outplays Meantime at the bottom side. It looks like Deep Learn also ended up going down. The tidal wave coming out. Flux having to flash away from this one. Sketch barely making it out alive after picking up the kill once again. And now it's Captain Shrimps. He's going to flash forward. Going on to Plux. Plux using the wild growth on himself and then the polymorph onto Captain Shrimps to make sure that he gets out alive. Holy cow, Cincinnati Fear is on a tear.
Across the board, a near ace at only 12 minutes, 13 minutes into the game, off the back of not only pressure being applied to the bottom side of the map after their jungler show top lane, but Dragoon pulling the 2v1 top lane double kill is just insane for this team to be able to dominate. We talked about these teams being competitive, being at the top of the table. On occasion, Ginger Turmeric kind of plays like this. This is the bottom side play, as we didn't get to see it all that much. Deeplearn jumped in with damage, stepped right into the trap line after dashing, had to flash and immediately get out, and this was him just going down immediately. Good punish from Trickster as he was covering again because the jungler was on the other side of the map, and then what are you to do if you're Duo King? You probably just have to leave, but again, Lilia just runs you down, so...
Lilia runs you down, and that's, something you got to consider for both of these compositions. They both have quite a bit of speed, but it definitely does not feel that way. Right now, it feels like Sphere has all the speed in the world, and they're going to find another engagement. It's once again Keel and Moose Hater alone in the top side. Trickster able to just navigate on in, throw this Floral Seed, potentially continue the fight here as he ends up going after Moose Hater. We can see just the amount of damage that he's able to do. Moose Hater has to hook shot over the wall, and once again, just get the heck out of here. That's kind of been the name of the game right now for GTC.
And at this point, there is no losing lane at all for the side of Cincinnati Fear. I remember me saying, okay, both lanes on both sides and the solo lanes are self-sufficient. And yet what happened was Dragoon had made a 2v1 outplay happen. He got himself 2 kills. Blaze got 3 kills in a skirmish early game. Now he's leading. And then everything else has been about playing towards the bottom side, making sure that there's some additional play to happen. See Blaze maybe just kill Shrimps right now.
He's got the opportunity here. He's going to take a lot of damage. And will he survive? No, the tower shot is going to be enough, so there's at least a responding shutdown. And you know what, Rebel? That's going to be the first kill of the game for AoE Ginger Turmeric.
If I were Gingery Turmeric, I wouldn't even feel great about that. Because, again, you're just kind of getting bullied. You do get shut down into your Swain, which feels nice. But at this point, I feel like the game isn't exactly dusted right now, but it's certainly feeling really, really tough to come back on the side of Ginger Turmeric. Because again, look at this. Like, what are you supposed to do to sketch? What are you going to do with your Keel? You're going to press your Ghost if you have it available, and you're going to try to run at him. But if you press it down the trap line, you have to run all the way around it without the Summoner spell. There's just no way to get on top of him. Nobody can contest this position, especially now that Moose Hater really is also in a really bad situation up against the Mordekaiser, especially Dragoon's Mordekaiser. Cincinnati Fear, again, winning across the board in every single individual matchup at this point in the game is just, it feels like way too much of a slope to try to climb.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at 15 and a half minutes in, a 9,000 gold, an 8,000 gold differential coming through here. Cincinnati Fear looking to grow that. I mean, that is absolutely massive. So that's not really something that is easily comebackable, especially when we're talking about the late game capacity that is invested in Cincinnati Fear's composition here. Whereas with Ginger Turmeric, they needed that early game pressure on the bottom side. They weren't able to collect it quickly enough, and that meant that the backlash came through from Cincinnati Fear. And now the question is, how do you even slow them down? How do you not even stop them, just calm the storm a little bit? Because Cincinnati Fear, like I said, they're on a tear right now. They're not holding back. They're initiating roaming absolutely everywhere.
I think it's really difficult to find even a response to that question on its own, right? The only thing you can hope for is outnumbers doing something. Right now, Keel is relatively powerful. He's got Sunfire on the Udyr. Maybe you can make something work if you're able to find a catch-out with Cap and Shrimps. You're able to find an ultimate with Camille. But that's about all you're hoping for, is just little tiny bits of gold to come back into your pockets, and having enough pressure on the map that Cincinnati Fear can't really go for anything massive themselves. You did get the one dragon. Those are stalled decently inside of the game. You're going to have to wait till like 25 minutes before anything really comes through. This is that pickoff I was talking about where Blaze is going to have to make a decision here.
See if he can even go after Captain Shrimps. There's too much sustainability now at the moment. The ultimate is going to come through. A little bit of an assist there from the Nami, who's coming down on that 2v1. Does work out for AoE GTC, but in the meantime, this mid lane is going to be pushed, and they're going to lose yet another tower.
Yes, they will. Sketch will pick up the gold for the tower as well, alongside Trickster, who just lays down the Rift Herald. Again, it's the play to the bottom side where they almost lost again. It was remarkably close how much damage was actually dealt from the side of Blaze, and they're just going to push down maybe 2 towers. His Duo King, he's dead.
Duo King is no longer a part of this one. It was a nice attempt right there. We saw the tidal wave come out. But you know what? There's just too much dang damage. Once again, Moose Hater just has to hook shot away from the fight. Cannot stay in this lane.
Nope. And nobody is in mid lane. They're going to test the positioning of the Jinx by throwing out a W from the Swain. But again, isn't there fast enough to really make things work? Okay. Sketch, I think, wanted to be close enough to try to press an auto attack against Deeplearn as he slept right there. But so far, again, there really just hasn't been a bad situation that Cincinnati Fear have really found themselves in at all. Here comes Keel to try to punish Dragoon, but that's not the player you're looking to punish in this game.
It's okay. Fear and Plux, they're just sitting there. They're like, all right, let's take out this ward that has just been placed down. Dragoon should be able to handle this on the front line. It might allow for us to recall.
no.
It might allow for us to re-engage. Blaze coming down as well, using the teleport to reinitiate. Dragoon taking a lot of damage. He's going to be able to escape out of this one, though. And it's just so much damage coming out of this mid laner. Trickster going to take a tower shot or two, but still able to initiate on this one. This might be the opportunity for Deep Learn, who ends up trying to go to sleep. Got to use the cleanse. Has to flash away. Captain Shrimp's going into stasis, but it's not going to be enough time. Sketch should be able to pick up another one. He gets pulled in, and the culling will be enough to finish him off. But still, big pickups from Sketch before going down.
Outside of a very few number of like little reprieve moments here from Captain Shrimps, like it feels like Ginger Turmeric at some point just fell behind in items and just cannot recover themselves. It's like they got themselves into quicksand and they keep struggling. It just keeps burying them further and further into this game. We're 18 minutes in at a 10k gold deficit. Everyone on Cincinnati Fear has been performing immaculately this game. And it's even crazier because like typically you think Cincinnati Fear is not bad at team fighting. They like to rely on the late game. Look at their kill participation. What is it, like 8 out of 15, 8 out of 15, 6 out of 15, 6 out of 15, 7 out of 15. Like they have 2 people above 50% and they're only just barely above 50%. This isn't one big like conglomerate effort from Cincinnati Fear where they're finding big fights. They're just winning everywhere, all the time, always.
It's true. And you can see that Ginger Turmeric has been able to try to kind of maintain that pacing or at least match that speed at least a little bit. And every time they do, somebody ends up getting caught out. Or Cincinnati Fear is just able to say, all right, yeah, Dragoon, keep fighting 3 of them while we reposition ourselves. And then they're able to not just take the fight, but they're able to take objectives on top of it. When Trickster's able to shove your whole team away, if you're scared of the Lilia, not even knowing what's behind them, I mean, that's not a good position to be in. And that means it's going to be another dragon. Of course, only the 3rd of the game, so Cincinnati Fear has not managed to stack those up. That's not something that Ginger Turmeric has to be too scared of just yet, but still, it's barely 20 minutes into this game, so it feels like this is already at 30 minutes. I don't know about
We're gonna
you.
do this again. We're gonna do this again. We're gonna do this again.
Look at all of Cincinnati Fear moving up this river to try to come help out Dragoon, who's gonna be able to survive no matter what. Out comes the Hextech ultimatum. Heal is like, yeah, I'm positioned here behind the scenes. Sketch throws out the Super Mega Death Rocket. Doesn't even need to be there to get the pickup. The Blast Cone's gonna be used for Sketch to come along the backside. And now another member of Ginger Turmeric is stuck here fighting multiple members of Cincinnati Fear who are going to have the speed. The flash forward Dragoon really wanted that kill.
He is such a raid boss right now. I'm like terrified for the 2 members as they're walking in. One of them's a tank too. Like this is insane. I don't even know how else to say it. Like everybody's been performing well. Somehow Dragoon has just felt like an unstoppable beast inside of this game. That has been like to say he's like a Death Knight in this one is entirely too accurate as to his position because he's just been playing immaculately on the Mordekaiser. This is what happens when you leave him alone normally, but like this game, it just happens to be that the rest of the map also is winning. So it's kind of like, you know, veiled behind the rest of the map going so effectively. But Dragoon has been standout even among the standouts, which has been insane.
Yep. We got 10 stacks, of course, on the Magi's, which we love to see on somebody like Dragoon. So he's able to sustain himself here. And look at also just the fact that he is running a perfect game, 4-0-6, 10 participation out of the 17 kills that Cincinnati Fear has accumulated for themselves. And, you know, even just looking at the deaths and the kills in general, right? AoE Ginger Turmeric has only managed to pick up 3 for themselves in this whole game compared to the 17. And that has to do with Cincinnati Fear making moves on that bottom lane first thing that they possibly could. Same thing with that mid, of course, where the triple kill and the first blood came into play in favor of Blaze. As soon as they got that momentum in the first couple of minutes of the game, that felt like that was it. The script was written. Cincinnati Fear had control.
And it's very rare, like, oftentimes I see, especially, like, Cincinnati Fear, they played to Griffin a lot in the previous season. I saw Trickster is filling the same void, where it's like, you want to play to Trickster, he's a very good jungler. It's a very rare situation where he's on Lilia, he's playing to his lanes really effectively. He actually played into Sketch and Plux immaculately to kick off this game to deny this Lucian Nami from ever really getting off the ground, because they got close, they had some brief moments of, like, really positive play, and then they got completely snuffed out by the deer coming in, which was fantastic. Yep. It felt like Keel couldn't even keep up with Trickster. Trickster was just everywhere at once, making sure that everyone was feeling the effects of the deer. Again, I just keep using that. I hope we don't get this a second time because it's going to drive me insane. But Cincinnati Fear, I think, are just waltzing this in because that's all they have to do, right? I think Blaze was even going to go for like the Sunfire with Blade of the Rune King build, and then he hit like 2 items at like 15 minutes and was like, I'll just buy the crit. Why wouldn't I buy crit in this game?
Yup, and he's continuing to do so, of course, as we can see that cloak in his inventory here. And, you know, we've been talking for the last almost 10 minutes. It feels like this script has been written, or, you know, this is kind of the end of the game. We're now looking at a 15,000 gold difference here, Rebel Fox, and Cincinnati Fear is breaking into the base. They still have about 45 seconds left on this Baron buff, and this could spell the end of the game if they win this one. Out comes the culling. It's going to follow up after that tidal wave. Dragoon, though, on his way down, or Blaze using the teleport to come through. Dragoon was able to use his ultimate to pick up the one. There's the follow-up ult. It's gonna get another one. Out comes the super mega death rocket, and now this is just Cincinnati Fear cleaning up what they can. Pluck's maybe gonna try to poke his face into the fountain, and that was that.
He didn't kill him either, because that's a cue coming through. He just gave himself a death just for the hell of it. That's kind of crazy to think about right there. As Cincinnati Fear, again, walking through this game, 24 minutes, it felt effortless from this squad to just take that big of a victory. And we had mild conflict. I think both of us were leaning towards Fear. Our desk had predicted 2-1s. That did not look like a 2-1 series game. That looked like a very quick 2-0 series game. And I'm hoping that Ginger Turmeric can prove me wrong. To me, I think the composition was too standard. Throw me a bone. Throw me something crazy. Give me Ash support. Give me Fiddlesticks. Give me something else, because I don't want to see you go down, with the rest of the crew with a composition that boring when you're Ginger Turmeric. We expect so much more.
I was gonna bring that up because you mentioned as we were loading in, as everybody was running down, you're like, are they try-harding right now? Is that what this situation is, right? Just trying to match that standard composition that Cincinnati Fear is running so well. And yeah, you know what? Maybe it's time to take a step back and do what works really well, which is just crazy pulls, crazy pickups, crazy matchups coming out of Ginger Turmeric. And you know what? With their backs against the wall going into game number 2, the fact that this is a best-of-3 series and now it is Fear at match point, I think it's time to say, hey, we'll try to take the counter picks. We'll try to take that red side, which has been recently finding more success with improving grounds, and maybe pull out something a little bit spicy. If they don't do it for themselves, at least do it for Rebel Fox, right?
Yeah. Especially if it's the Fiddlesticks, because I know Keel had played that for a long time. You got it banned away from him when he was in Academy for a short time. Like, that's how good he is. And it's one of my favorite champions, so I want to see it picked at some point. But at minimum, don't go silently into the night. Obviously, the winner of this goes on, but, like, the loser isn't quite out. You still play the winner of the next series. And the next series is going to be an absolute dogfight because, again, the winner has a much better chance of making it to top 10 and into Proving Grounds. So, like, it's going to be a feast. And I think whoever wins that series, like, you get to look against Ginger Turmeric as, like, a villain who, like, if they get beaten here, especially in a 2-0 this badly by Fear, that's not like you're catching a team on a downshift. It's that you're catching a team that's going to be angry walking into that series. I wouldn't want to be that if that were the case. But I'm here hoping that Ginger Turmeric's able to, fulfill our desk's wishes and take us.
Well, we'll have to see, and we'll check in with the desk, actually, because we do have another game to follow this one. So let's toss as the most ravishing man on the internet and, his comrades.